Well, good morning, everybody, and thank you once again for joining us. We are on the set of That's What She Said, ready for another fun episode. I am Jeanette Jerzyk. We have
Kara Wackerlin
and
Carrie Rosso.
And the topic of today's show is something that's really important to the team at That's What She Said, because we're talking about leadership, specifically women in leadership and developing leadership. And our guest today, please welcome Patty Lyons. Patty is a very good friend and supporter of That's What She Said. So, Patty, tell us a little bit about who you are in the world and what you want to talk about with us today.
All right. Well, I am a mom of 3 grown sons. I have 2 dogs and a husband. And
but not necessarily in that order.
not necessarily in that order.
But
they didn't come in that order. But a lot of times that's where moms, we tend to say how many kids we have. That's kind of one of the first things out of people's mouths a lot of times, and they want to know. So they are all grown. Outside of here, I guess I'm just kind of an average person, but I like to have fun, and so I'm kind of a go with the flow type of person. I do navigate change okay. We talked about that a little bit. So.
And so today's episode is sponsored by Benefit Planning Consultants, which is the company where you work. Tell us a little bit about the organization and your position there.
So BPC is a third-party administrator. We administer flexible spending accounts, health reimbursement arrangements, COBRA, and retirement plans. So we don't sell investments or insurance. We just assist employers, basically their HR department. I came to BPC because I was a client of BPC's. So I got to see it on that side first. I was doing HR and payroll for a company. BPC did our benefits.
Wow, that says a lot.
Yeah. So I had that kind of exposure. Was brought on as a team member. So one of my favorite stories to tell is I came from a very structured job that I knew exactly what my job was. I knew exactly what my role was, and I came into an environment where it was, we're hiring, we need you to do some things, but we were growing so fast at that time that it was kind of let you know what happened, where we need you to go. So it really stretched my comfort zone, and it really stretched me to be able to just say, when people would say, what do you do at BPC? At the beginning, I would say, whatever somebody asks me to do. And that was literally true, so I allowed myself to get out of my perfectionist mindset, my black and white, this is my job, this is what I do, and just do whatever needed to happen for that day. So in a lot of my job title has changed numerous times over the years. My family used to joke about how many different business cards I had because I had a lot of different titles. But at the end of the day, I'm still a team member at BPC.
So you shared with me that one of the special things about working at BPC is the personal development that goes on for the employees, and that you have a big part in that. So since we're talking about leadership and growth, let's go there. Let's go there.
Sure. So one of my favorite things to do is we're all about culture at BPC, and I get to be a very active part of that. So when people are first coming on board, I get a chance to meet with the new employees. I talk with them. I talk with them about what our values as a company are. I talk with them about, our goal is to work together as a team. And so, some of it we draw on from our own experiences. We talk a lot about being a servant leader. And basically what that means is I'm not trying to have you do something for me, but what can I do to make your job easier? What can I do to help you succeed? So we tell every new hire that we bring on board, our job is to help you succeed. If we help you succeed, help you reach your goals, in the end, we're all going to benefit from that. So that's kind of our perspective on leadership and culture. You learn every day. Every time you have obstacles and things that come up, it's a chance to learn and grow in a new way. So about 5 years ago, I was leading a team, and we were supposed to be doing a software conversion from one system to another. I was supposed to be the project lead. And I went home on a Friday night, started having some irritation with my eye, and it was actually April 1st, so April Fool's Day, right? Went home, did not know when I went home that day that would be the last full week in the office that I would have for about 6 months. I developed a really rare eye infection. And so it got to the point where I couldn't drive, I couldn't see, I couldn't function to do my normal day-to-day things. So I would try to do things as much as possible. But what I learned through that process, I ended up having to have a cornea transplant. Other people had to step in. They had to lead the conversion. They had to do it basically without me. That taught me probably one of the best life lessons about leadership that I've ever had, and that is you have to be willing to let other people step in. It also taught me that all of us, we might be important in our job, but we're all replaceable in our job. That the walls of BPC would not shut down because I was not there.
But wouldn't you like to think that sometimes?
Well, we all think that, right?
Right.
We all think that, oh my gosh, what would they ever do if I'm not here? What if I leave? What if I quit? They're going to be in sore shape if I'm gone. Well, no, they're not. There will be a vacuum that somebody else will step up and fill.
And I think it would be comforting, like the panic of thinking, oh my gosh, it's all going to fall apart, like the pressure all on you, but to have that comfort and confidence of I can tend to myself and all of these great people will fill that void.
It is, but I think it was a process of learning that it wasn't that I didn't trust them to fill that in. It was I felt like I was letting down the team. And I felt like, I was holding things back. But in hindsight, I watched a couple of other people say, you know what, I don't know anything about this, but I'm willing to learn. That willingness is what we want to have in the people around us.
Well, they basically said the same thing you did when you first started the company, that, I don't know what my role is here, but I'll do whatever they need me to do.
Right.
Can you tell me a little bit about, I assume that people aren't necessarily just born to be servant leaders. So what kind of specific training things do you do with your staff to encourage them to be servant leaders? Or does it just start at the top and then trickle down?
Well, it definitely starts at the top. I'm part of the executive management team, and that's something that it's important to us. So we definitely, we're the drivers of the culture, along with many other people that come alongside of us. So that's part of it. But the other part of it is everybody wants to be able to feel significant in their role. Everybody wants to feel valued. Everybody wants to make a difference. So a lot of times it starts from the interview process. We talk about it before we ever hire somebody. Any applicant that comes in for an interview, we talk about that. And we talk about the fact that, we want them to come in and we're going to do our part as a company to help them succeed. We're going to give them the tools, the resources. But at the end of the day, it's up to them to do it. They have to take a hold of that. And in most cases, the only barriers that any of us put on ourselves are the ones that we put on ourselves. Some of the things that we think are important are coming in with a positive attitude, coming in with a can-do attitude, and coming in with a grateful spirit and saying, you know what, instead of maybe complaining about what our job is or isn't, I'm glad I have a job. I'm glad that I have an opportunity, and I'm going to do the very best in this role for this day. And if you do that, it's going to lead to other things. So, that's a big part of kind of the things that we try to instill in people.
Do you have leadership workshops that you give in-house, or do you send people away to leadership training, or how do you encourage people to take leadership responsibility?
Kind of all of the above. So when people come in, all of our supervisors, we're not about having them be a micromanager. They're leaders. All of our people we expect to be leaders. And we tell them, you're a leader whether you have a title or not. I can have a big fancy title and not be a leader at all. So, everybody that comes on board, every team member is a leader. When my kids were little, I used to tell them, you're always an example. You can be an example for good, or you can be an example for bad, but you're always an example. Leadership is the same way. So a lot of times it's a matter of blooming where you're planted. We have some other things where we have a professional development program that it's kind of unique, I think. Whenever we tell people, they love it. We've identified probably 14 or 15 different books, and they're all things that we feel like validate the culture that we aspire to at BPC. So on these books, people can read them, and they can check them out, read them. Sometimes they read them because they love to read. Sometimes they read them because they want some extra time off. Sometimes they read them because they really want to better themselves.
So you provide an incentive for them to get involved and learn more and read these books.
So they read the book, they answer about 4 or 5 questions, simple questions. What is this? How does this validate our culture? What does it mean to you? How are you going to take what you learned in this book and implement it in your personal life and your professional life? They turn that in, and we give them 4 hours of paid time off.
Wow.
So,
This sounds like a pretty amazing place to work.
Where do I apply?
well, we have been selected best places to work three times in a row in Illinois. So,
Well, something's obviously
Really?
working.
In the whole state? Awesome.
It's pretty great.
Didn't know
That's
that.
really, really impressive. Share with us a little bit about Habib and his leadership and his inspiration, his influence on you.
Habib has been a huge influence on me.
And share with our friends who we're talking about.
Sure. So Habib is the CEO of BPC. He's also the founder of H Squared Leadership. So I also help him with that. So we do leadership seminars for the public. We do leadership seminars for employer groups and different groups in the community. I got to know Habib when I was a client. So I was the HR person, and at that time, he came and did our employer meeting. So we got to know each other, and we realized there was some synergy in the way that we looked at employees and the value that employees bring. We realized there was some like-mindedness. So when I came to BPC, I remember the very first day, and he does it with our new hires now. He usually spends time with them at the beginning, every day. Welcome, not every day, but like the first day that they come in, says hello. He welcomes them. Sometimes he'll bring them a Starbucks. For me, he came in and he said, you're probably a little nervous about starting your new job. You were at your other job for 15 years. It's going to be okay. Because you know how you have that anxiety when you start something new. So
It sounds like there's realistic expectations.
there is, and
Right.
it's just allowing people to kind of take a breath. We talk a lot at work too about people come into a workplace for a lot of different reasons, but a lot of times they come from someplace where they weren't exactly happy, right? They left the other job maybe because they were feeling not valued, not important. Maybe they felt a little bit disgruntled. They came in a little bit wounded. So our job, I think, really is to kind of care for the people that we're entrusted with. So when I came in, right away, I remember him introducing me to somebody, and at the time, I knew parts of the business, but I didn't know that like this side of it. So there were a lot of things that happened on the TPA side that I was very, very green at. But he introduced me not as this is my employee, not as this is a new hire, not as somebody that doesn't know anything. He introduced me as his colleague.
Wow.
So when the CEO introduces the newest person on the team as a colleague, it kind of sets the tone for it.
That's great.
I've had the opportunity to work pretty closely with him in my tenure at VPC. I've learned a ton from him about leadership. And so he models it. He lives it. A lot of times he will go up to, I was actually having a conversation with somebody this morning, and they were talking about some of our more newer employees and how they support another group of people on the team. And I said, really, we're all here to support one another. And I used him as an example. He doesn't say, I'm the CEO, so come and support me. I need this from you. Do that for me. He'll say, what can I do for you?
So it sounds to me like humility is right at the top of the list of.
You can't be an effective servant leader if you don't have humility. And I think that was one of the biggest lessons I learned when I was out with the eye infection and the cornea transplant that I had. I learned that things were going to go, and basically I was replaceable. Didn't mean I don't have value. It means that I bring something special to wherever I go, and the other people bring something special. So somebody else might do it a different way, but at the end of the day, it's going to get done.
So how amazing would the work environment be if more companies could take on this kind of culture? So that's inspiring. And so I think that's a really good place to wrap this up, because I feel like I'm going to go and be a servant leader in my community and at my job.
I'm going to go apply.
Right.
Hey, we're hiring,
Ooh, good to know. So pass that along. But Patty, thank you so much for joining us here. We want to thank Habib and BPC, and we thank the Virginia Theater for hosting us one more time, for Columbia Street Roastery for our coffee, and for you guys for sharing this time with us. So until next time, that's what she said.
That's what she said.
That's what she said.